In Clayville, he walked as if light were a shy animal, and he had learned not to spook it. His name was Ellis Harrow, though the town called him simply the photographer, the way a river is the river even when it has two names. He lived above his shop, a place that smelled like rain, vinegar, and warmed metal. The windows were patient eyes that gathered the street into themselves hats, bread, bicycle bells so gently that glass felt like a promise. You can be here without being trapped. Inside, trays as shallow as bird baths taught images how to arrive. Under the red safe light, faces rose from blankness. The string across the ceiling held drawing prints that fluttered when the door opened, as if the air had learned to read. I was small the first time I emptied Fixer for him, learning its smell the way you learn handwriting strange until familiar. What I remember most wasn't the click of the camera, but his listening. He listened to the world as if each thing had a shudder. A woman's tilted head, a man's pause before lighting his cigarette, a child about to lie. He came from downriver with nothing but a bag of lenses and a voice that made verbs feel like boots. He photographed whatever Clayville asked for weddings, babies, graduations, and yet his pictures made people look less posed and placed. I look like I'm thinking, they'd say. He'd only shrug. He had rules that were really kindnesses. Never take a picture without asking, unless laughter insisted. Never use flash. There's enough surprise in living, he'd say. He matched exposure to emotion. Slower for grief, quicker for joy. Hold like you're holding someone who doesn't need you, he once told me, blushing after. He named things with reverence. The dark room was the long room, the enlarger the big mouth. We are all tiny specks that want to become something, he'd murmur to the photo paper. When an image appeared, he looked at it as you look at an unexpected friend. People brought him oddities because his shop was kind to oddities. Buttons, curls of hair, a mirror that refused faces. Could you make this peep what it peeps? They'd ask, and sometimes he could. He photographed funerals, too. Grief, in his hands, was a kind of weather. He stood where light could forgive. Sorrow moves slowly, he'd say. His images were not of wood and flowers, but of spaces where someone once stood. I was never in any of them, he said once, staring into the running sink. There's a last picture I haven't taken. That winter, he grew thinner. He labeled drawers carefully. Second River for blues. Threads with stories for a tin of string. I brought him soup to orange with carrot, and he smiled anyway. One morning, under the dim red light, he took my hand. When I go, he said, open the shop. Don't usher, don't rehearse love. Let anyone take pictures. Remember, night is a kind of paper. Time is liquid. Fixers soften what they hold. He looked at me. I want to see how I am held, he said. Not how I look how I am held. Upstairs, his room was neat, the air careful. 3 envelopes. Open at dawn, open at 3s for after. 2 boxes, 1 heavy, 1 light. The heavy held old lenses and plates. The light held slips of paper with words. Anise, seam, willow, mouse. Names are doors, he said. If you put the right word on the table, the room will know what to do. He never told the town he was dying, but they began to know. The butcher offered marrow bones with gentleness that wasn't about broth. The miller pressed flour into his palm. Kids brought pebbles too ordinary to matter and asked him to make them interesting. They whispered about who would take pictures when he was gone. Maybe we'll learn to see each other without him, someone said, though it sounded like a punishment. One gray morning, he called me upstairs. Be open at dawn, he said. Inside was a hand-drawn map of the shop with small X's hidden cameras, tucked behind frames, horns, stairs. They listen, he said. Sometimes they take notes. I want that. He showed me how to wake them with a touch, how to let one clock stay a little wrong. Someone must be, he said. It might as well be the time. Open at 3s, he saved for later. for after he placed in my hand. When he died, it was quiet, decent. The town kept cooking. A dog barked, then tried to swallow it back. We buried him under afternoon light. No lilies. Just the air, honest about its work. The shop stood open, photographs watching. And when the clock turned 3:33, I knew what to do. At 3:33, the shop began to breathe. The red safe light flickered, and a sound rose soft clicks, like rain remembering itself. The hidden cameras woke, one behind the clock, one inside a violin case, one behind a mirror that never reflected what you asked it to. The air felt thick, newly alive. On the counter sat open at 3s. I hesitated before opening it. Inside, a note in his looping script. Let them see themselves. Don't interrupt what's speaking. And beneath it, a single key. I unlocked the back room. It was empty, except for a small stool, a white sheet pinned to the far wall, and a faint humming like a breath that never ended. Then, slowly, an image appeared on the sheet-shifting, flickering people of Clayville, one by one. Not photographs, but moments. The baker laughing before burning his hand. The girl at the river's edge, waiting for a ripple. The mayor, alone, unbuttoning his collar. Each image pulsed faintly, then faded, replaced by another. Ellis's voice drifted through the hum. A photograph isn't a memory, it's a witness. I stood still. The faces were not ghosts, just the town remembering itself. They didn't pose or smile. They were being seen. Outside, the wind stirred. Children ran by, their voices echoing like soft percussion. But in the room, silence ruled. Each image came and went with the care of someone folding paper cranes. Hours passed. When I stepped outside, Clayville felt sharpened, the light clearer. Even the dirt road had a kind of posture. The next day, I opened the shop. People entered hesitantly, as if stepping into a confession. The walls shimmered with soft projections, moments they'd forgotten. The woman who once danced alone in her kitchen. The postman stopping to smell oranges through a crate. They cried sometimes, or laughed, or said nothing. I said nothing too. Ellis had taught me silence could frame truth better than sound. At night, I found him again, not in the photographs, but in the empty chair. The shadow of his hat on the wall. The way light still bent toward his lenses. There was one camera I hadn't found, the one he said, listen most closely. The one that knows who's still learning to see. I began to suspect it was me. Autumn deepened. Clayville slowed. The air turned the color of bruised peaches. The shop became a quiet gathering place for those who needed to remember softly. Every few days, a new photograph appeared on the counter, unsigned. The same steady hand, the same patient light. Faces half-turned, gestures mid-breath. No one saw who took them, but the town stopped asking. They'd hang them in kitchens and porches, treating them like small miracles that required no proof. One night, I dreamed the shop was underwater. The prints floated above me like lanterns, and Ellis was there, untroubled. He said, "Don't hold the image. Let it hold you." I woke to a faint glow from the darkroom. The red light pulsed like a heartbeat. I stepped inside and found the last envelope for after still sealed. My name written softly. Inside, a single photograph. The shop empty. Me at the counter, head bowed. Light falling exactly the way it did now. On the back, in his hand. You were always in the picture. The next morning, I closed the shop for a while. Clayville didn't mind. The river kept speaking in its slow grammar. Children pressed their faces to the windows, whispering, "He's still in there, you know." Maybe he was. Maybe we both were. At dusk, I hung his last photograph in the window. No caption. Just light and the faint trace of a breath that had refused to leave. When night came, the shop glowed from within, soft and steady. People walking home would glance up and swear, They saw two shadows moving in the light, one teaching, one learning still. And somewhere behind the glass, a camera clicked once more.